So many movies today rely on CGI to tell a story, and for good reason. CGI has not only vastly improved over the last few decades, but it has also allowed filmmakers to realize their visions in ways that would never have been possible before. Think of movies like James Cameron's Avatar, Matt Reeves' Planet of the Apes trilogy, or Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity. Sure, they could have made a low-tech version of any one of those films without using much CGI, but they wouldn't have lived up to the director's vision for what the movie should be. In other words, Andy Serkis dressed up like an ape just wouldn't look as good as the beautifully rendered Caesar of the Planet of the Apes movies. With that being said, there is an intangible quality to certain practical effects that CGI simply can't replicate. You can find great examples of this idea in the T-Rex scene from the original Jurassic Park, the chest-bursting scene from Alien, and of course the gravity jog from Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. Granted, most of the time the best approach to visual effects is to capture as much in camera as one can, and then enhance the effect with CGI in post-production. Just look at the action sequences in Mad Max Fury Road, the design of Ava in Ex Machina, or basically every stunt from the last 3 Mission Impossible movies. Still, there's something magical about pulling off an insane effect entirely in camera. One director who definitely agrees with this sentiment is Christopher Nolan. The man has freaking blown up a building, flipped a semi-truck, and built an indoor Gotham City just for the Dark Knight trilogy alone. But my favorite, and in my opinion, the greatest practical effect of all time is the gravity shifting fight scene from his 2010 mind-bending masterpiece, Inception. All of that happened in camera, in one continuous take. It just looks impossible. Well, I can tell you from researching the behind the scenes, it was a massive challenge. First off, Nolan's idea for how long the hallway would be kept increasing in scale throughout the pre-production process.
The horizontal rotating corridor was an early concept that was in the script, which started off as like a 40-foot corridor and then stretched to a 60-foot corridor, and then Chris Nolan felt that he needed a 100-foot revolving corridor.
100 feet long. In other words, if you were to stand up the set vertically, it would be up to the crown on the Statue of Liberty. And that's not even the craziest part. The hallway had to rotate 360 degrees to achieve the shifting gravity effect. So not only did the production team have to design a mechanism to rotate such a large set, they had to build it with nearly perfect accuracy. The production team ultimately came up with a design that featured 8 separate rings, each measuring 30 feet in diameter. If something was just a little bit off in the mechanism's construction, or if one of the motors that powered the rings was slightly out of sync, it would have created vibrations that would have ripped the set apart. Needless to say, the welders who put the rig together had to work with incredible precision. Okay, at this point, the production team has constructed this massive rotating set, but they still need to figure out how they're going to film a movie in it. For one, where is the camera going to go?
Is the camera separate from the set, or is it actually rotating with the set?
If you lock the camera on the ground, the audience doesn't see the room spinning. The audience just sees us moving all over the place. It looks like we're jumping on the ceiling and stuff. In order to actually get it done, I couldn't think of it that way. I had to think of it as, this is the ground. Okay, now this is the ground. Okay, now this is the ground.
So for the main shot, the camera was locked down on the set. But for other parts of the sequence, the crew suspended the camera on a long arm that extended into the hallway. Then there was the question of lighting. All the lighting equipment used in this scene would have to be directly built into the set. In other words, they had to be really creative. Not to mention, this was a difficult scene for the actors. Initially, Nolan and his producers planned to have a stuntman stand in for most of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's takes, but the actor was insistent on doing his own stunt work.
Bring on the double. No!
Joseph Gordon-Levitt had, I think, probably only about 2 weeks rehearsal, and he honestly was
fantastic, and he attacked it with such excitement and enthusiasm, and he was determined to do it all himself. And it really, really pays off.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt also brought his enthusiasm to the second part of the sequence, which takes place in a hotel room. While Levitt described the fight in the room as easier than the fight in the hallway, he also explained why it was actually way more dangerous. Whereas the hallway was 8 feet wide and 8 feet tall, the hotel room had one long wall, meaning that if the actors messed up the timing of their choreography, they could fall over 25 feet to the opposite wall. To avoid injury, the production team slowed down the speed of the room's rotation while the actors were on the longer wall, and then sped it back up again when they were on the shorter wall. They also elected to use stunt doubles more frequently for this part of the sequence. Inception's gravity-shifting fight sequence is the perfect example of how to execute a wonderfully unique and creative idea from a brilliant script while also paying homage to Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. Nolan basically took Kubrick's visual idea, scaled it way up, made it into a fight scene featuring a long continuous take, and then threw in some Hans Zimmer music for good measure. Long story short, he knocked it out of the park. That's why, in my opinion, it's the greatest practical effect of all time. Or at the very least, it's a pretty darn good one.
So many action movies now, and it's all done on computers later. Whereas these scenes that we did, it was so well thought out. It's just things revolving, and it's up to me to keep my balance, and we did the performance, and they shot it, and that's that. I love that. There's no substitute for real human energy and performance. That was the most fun. It was the most challenging and the most fun.
So, do you agree? What are some of your favorite practical effects from movies? Why don't you let me know down in the comments? Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Jimmy Youthie, and I'll see you next time.